Hi there and welcome back to Japan, where I'm going to be giving you a reaction and review to Passcode, covering Bring Me the Horizon song Mantra. As always, if you want to see the reaction, I've just done it, and you can watch that video by pausing this one, the review, clicking the link in the description below, which will open a separate little YouTube player where you can see me watching and reacting to the song first time over. So if you haven't heard the song, or if you just want to see my reaction, click on that now. Otherwise, I'm about to give you the review. So, have you seen it? Have you paused this? Are you ready to go? Here comes the review. Don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, so this one was an interesting one because, as I say, I'm not really familiar with the original song. I'm familiar roughly with Bring Me the Horizon sound. I'm much more familiar with Passcode as a group. So I must admit, I went into this with a slight degree of trepidation because, as I say, Bring Me the Horizon are a group who I haven't got anything against them. I'm just not hugely wowed by them. They've never did anything which I've heard, at least, that made my ears really prick up and go, oh, that's really different or interesting in a way that I found engaging. But like I say, nothing particularly against them either. And Passcode, who are a group who I mainly like them for their writing. I have nothing against their production style. It is very, very sort of effect heavy. And I know some people really don't like that, but I've got nothing against it. But by the same token, their production is not really what I come to them for. It's more for the sort of bombastic, insane style of songs that we tend to hear from them. Pretty much always do hear from them, should I say. So yeah, this was an interesting combination in that it didn't really play to any of, or it didn't seem at first to play to any of the things I most liked, but I must admit that the final product is much better than I could have expected. And actually, I would go as far as to say I think I'm kind of glad they made this. It was something that, like I say, I wasn't sure how happy I was going to be about hearing, but I'm happy they made this, actually. It does definitely appeal to a very different style from what Passcode usually do, because as I say, the big difference here, I think what this mostly highlights, is it kind of draws your attention to a different part of what Passcode do, in that usually with all of the frantic changes in their songs and the way that everything's constantly switching up and is so kinetic all the time in most of their songs, you are left just sort of, like I say, following all of the changes and not so much just really just hearing their sound played on a sort of steady way. Whereas, obviously, Bring Me the Horizon, their whole writing style seems to be the total opposite in that it's really steady, no sudden changes, just a little bit changes here, a little bit of a beat, this bit comes in, this bit goes out. Like I said, I'm not familiar with the original, so I don't know if they've stripped it back, but I'd be quite surprised if they had. I'm assuming they're playing an arrangement that does represent the original song relatively faithfully. So, yeah, when I was hearing this, I was just sort of thinking to myself, okay, this is interesting, because now that it's just sort of steady and we're not expecting any sudden changes and we're just hearing Passcode sound, you know what? Actually, it works quite well here, because this is obviously, this song has that element that reminds me a lot of the sort of early sort of 2000s metal, where everything was like heavy compression on the guitars and all the sounds were really sort of thick, flat, compressed sounds, and this is clearly the way this is supposed to sound, because it's somewhere between like metal and EDM. It's got like dancey quality as well as having the metal quality, which are two genres very much interested in compression, and two genres where compression does actually work the vast majority of the time. Well, certainly the majority of the time. So yeah, that combined with the fact that, like I say, you get a heavy production sound anyway from Passcode, it just kind of, like I said, it just felt like a marriage that actually ended up working quite well. Now, again, just in case you didn't see the reaction, apologies about the cup. I'm drinking from the tiny cup just to control my caffeine intake. Didn't really work, so I just keep on refilling it. So, so yeah, I found this quite enjoyable. Now, to comment on the, if you like, the Bring Me Horizon start part of this, the actual songwriting, yeah, like I said, the song was pretty good. It didn't have any wow factor in the, the chorus was not like a real one that gets stuck in your head or anything like that. And it was all fairly simple stuff, nothing particularly technical or complicated. Certainly at least made it over to this cover version. However, things like the riff was engaging, it was nicely sort of funky and heavy at the same time. It was just kind of offbeat enough in the right places to give it a little sort of sense of funk, not make it too boring and plodding along, and at the same time, it had the heaviness to hit in certain notes and really have the right impact. And that was kind of a theme that I noticed throughout the song. Like the guitar work, very simple guitar work, but like I say, just sort of always just on that border between just thumping in certain notes and also occasionally just doing the occasional offbeat note that gives it a slightly funky element. A similar thing with the beat very simple, just sort of a bit EDM in places, just sort of banging along where it needs to, but with just enough bounce to stop it becoming monotonous. And that's kind of, that sounds like sounds almost like damning with faint praise, but in actuality that is a genuine compliment. It's that nice sort of walking that nice line between doing something which is simple enough just to be just sort of to be heavy, and combining that with just enough nuance in the writing and then the playing to make it actually have a little bit of personality as well, if that makes sense. It's kind of a difficult one to describe, but like I said, I think this is that kind of simplicity which is actually good. Now, that doesn't necessarily lend it to having, really standing out from other songs of a similar ilk as having identity, because there are quite a few other bands who've done songs with this kind of sound. And, it also doesn't exactly make it stick in your memory as one that you're going to come back to, because there isn't anything about this that really makes it stand out and go, wow, this song is different, or this song is particularly individual or creative. But you cannot deny that in a sort of pure mechanical sense, it really does work. I mean, you go from start to finish feeling engaged throughout. I didn't feel bored at all in this song. I felt nicely engaged all the way through. It had a nice sort of melodic bridge as well, which is something I often say is a good touch for a song. It worked all the way through, whilst also never doing anything which was particularly wow. It just sort of, like I say, it worked. As for the performance from the girls, I like I said, I was quite surprised how well their sound went with the song. I guess probably I should have seen that coming, but yeah, it was a nice surprise. It just sort of sounded like it worked really well. Just the whole thing was a very strangely apt marriage, and I think the decision to do this cover for them was nice, because, as I say, what this really highlights is it highlights what their sound can achieve in a less frantic song than they usually do, if they pick a song that nicely matches that sort of more produced style. And Bring Me the Horizon actually seems to be quite a good choice for that. So yeah, final thoughts on this one, really enjoyable, good. Like I say, nothing stand out enough to make me really come back to it on its own merit. However, if I was listening to like a playlist of Passcode songs, I probably would throw this in there just for the sheer fact that it adds a nice variation compared to what they usually do. It sounds out of style with their usual music because of the fact that obviously the writing's so different, and yet it marries with their sound well enough that if you listen to it in a playlist, it would actually feel like it just sort of flowed along with the other songs simply as an element of variation, an item of I'm going to go back to the word variation. I need a thesaurus. An item of variation in their catalogue of music. Anyway, so as always, I know that PASSCODE are a really divisive group, especially on this channel, which makes for a really interesting conversation. I love the fact that people are not overly dismissive, that we do have some good chats about these kind of things on here. So really looking forward to seeing you guys getting in the comments, telling me what you think about this, whether you know the group or not, whether you like the song or not. Just get in there, have a little talk, be respectful of other people's opinions, obviously, if you don't mind. I know it's YouTube, but let's try our best. And yeah, looking forward to getting there, and I'll try and get in comment a little bit as well. As always, if you want to get more involved in the discussion, remember that in our description below there's also links to our social medias. Discord's a great place, Reddit's a great place, we've got Facebook, Twitter, our merch links in there as well. We've got to update the shop a little bit, and our Patreon, because the Patreon people are the reason why we've managed to do this through all of the things this channel has been through. So like I said, a massive thank you to everyone, and a thank you to you for making it through to the end of this video. So until I see you in Japan for the next one, hopefully quite soon, for now, ciao ciao.